It looks like the royal family can no longer hide from what has been sitting in those Epstein files all along. Prince Andrew has officially been arrested, and new documents have confirmed he was doing far more than just being friends with Jeffrey Epstein. What's worse is that the same institution that protected him for decades is the one that has been quietly aware of everything this whole time. The public has been screaming about this for years, telling anyone who would listen that something was deeply wrong, but no one wanted to touch it. And now that the files are out and the police have shown up at his door, suddenly everyone is concerned. This entire situation blew up just days ago when police showed up at Royal Lodge and detained Prince Andrew for 11 hours on suspicion of misconduct in public office. According to PBS and NBC, the arrest on February 19th was triggered by over 3 million pages of unsealed Epstein documents that revealed Andrew had been forwarding confidential trade information to Epstein during his time as UK trade envoy between 2001 and 2011. He was released under investigation, meaning no formal charge has been filed yet, but the search of his home already told its own story. Mind you, by the time those police officers walked through Royal Lodge, this man had already lost everything the palace could quietly take from him. King Charles stripped him of his remaining titles in October 2025. He had been evicted from Royal Lodge, the home he had lived in for years. He hadn't been a working royal since 2019. And back in 2022, a settlement of roughly $16 million was paid to Virginia Giuffre, with Queen Elizabeth reportedly funding part of it, all to make her lawsuit go away without Andrew ever having to say the word sorry in a courtroom. They sold him piece by piece, trying to contain this. And from what the documents are now showing, it was never going to stay contained. When Andrew initially got pulled into Epstein's world, the number one question on everyone's list was why a member of the royal family would maintain this kind of relationship with a convicted sex offender. Andrew claims he was introduced to Epstein by Ghislaine Maxwell in 1999, but secretary notes that surfaced in the unsealed files suggest the connection goes back even further than that. What followed was years of Epstein being welcomed into the most private spaces the royal family had. Balmoral, Sandringham, private landings for his plane, palace security. They weren't just tolerating Epstein, they were rolling out the carpet for him. Virginia Giuffre alleged in her 2015 lawsuit that Andrew sexually assaulted her in London, New York, and on Epstein's private island in 2001. Andrew's response was his now infamous 2019 BBC Newsnight interview, which has been viewed over 50 million times on YouTube, and not because it went well. He claimed he had no recollection of ever meeting Giuffre. He said he couldn't have been with her that night because he had taken his daughter to a Pizza Express in Woking. He even told the interviewer he couldn't sweat due to a condition he developed after the Falklands War. The whole thing was so disastrous that his own team reportedly advised against it. So what happened was, the palace thought putting him in front of a camera would fix it, and instead it handed the internet ammunition that hasn't run out since. In the story he told the world about cutting ties with Epstein in 2010, the emails they pulled from Royal Lodge say otherwise. The documents show he was still forwarding confidential trade briefs to Epstein as late as 2011. A full year after he claimed the friendship was over. That contradiction is not a small detail. That is the entire case. Now, when it comes to how far this actually reaches, Andrew is just the most visible part of it. Sarah Ferguson, his ex-wife, borrowed $18,000 from Epstein in 2010 and reportedly referred to him in emails as the brother she always wished she had. And if that wasn't enough, documents revealed that Epstein had been invited to Beatrice's 18th birthday party at Windsor Castle in 2006, which was after his 2008 conviction was already being discussed in legal circles. Beyond the Yorks, Norway's crown princess Mette-Marie appears over 1,000 times in the unsealed files, with emails that included her writing that she missed her crazy friend in 2012. 4 years after his guilty plea. These were not peripheral acquaintances. These were people who knew exactly who Jeffrey Epstein was and kept the door open anyway. It's now being speculated that the timing of all these revelations is not the coincidence that the palace would like us to believe. Virginia Giuffre's 2025 memoir is what triggered the October title stripping. The 3 million pages of files are what triggered the arrest. And William and Catherine only released their deeply concerned statement after the whole thing became impossible to ignore publicly. But in 2022, when the palace was quietly wiring $16 million to make Giuffre's lawsuit disappear, there was no statement, no concern, just a check. And honestly, this checks out, because powerful institutions do not move until they absolutely have to. These people have been playing in our face for decades, and it is getting harder and harder to ignore. As usual, people had their own thoughts, like this person who said, they let this man represent the UK on the world stage, shaking hands with foreign governments while he was forwarding classified information to a convicted sex trafficker. The palace knew. They always knew. Another person said, Beatrice and Eugenie attended a party Epstein came to after his 2008 conviction. Andrew walked through Central Park with him in 2010. Sarah Ferguson called him her brother. At what point does this stop being coincidence and start being complicity? But now I want to know your thoughts. Do you think Prince Andrew is going to face real consequences this time? And do you think the palace knew more than they're letting on? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below.